Hi guys, hi and welcome back again to another episode of Words with Al. And yeah, so this is it. Now I'm going to show you what I tried to do in the previous video. I retracted that one not because it was wrong, but because I wasn't clear enough. I haven't really given you the idea fully. But in essence, what we have here is that we were we didn't have a language, okay? We had like five, six sounds, and these sounds were like cries, like animal cries, right? Like danger, mom, dad, food, hide, safety, something like these within the basics of survival, right? Or like getting around. and and what happened was that slowly these people started realizing things about their existence, right? This life in this form, the human body, but that was obviously many other animals before, suddenly realized things, right? It realized first its own existence, and that was death, right? And that was a very scary thing. It was a very, very scary thing because animals had never realized that before. They didn't have a conceptual understanding about death because they were nature, and nature did not have death. It kind of had life, right? So, so the first word we find, okay, this is just a theory, still just a theory, but be, join me on this trail and this journey because this journey is amazing. Okay, then as you can see here, I asked ChatGPT because we can just actually ask ChatGPT for the phonetical structure, right? Of all of well, yeah, of sounds. And if we just compare the phonetical structure throughout languages, then we'll see what that sound meant throughout time, right? So it meant one thing in the beginning, oh, death, right? Oh no, and which is why we find very many meanings here. We find, but we don't know which one came first, what they realized first. But this is what we find. So we find është, obviously that is the PIE root, which I do agree on, but it is not also fully incorrect, but it is a little bit incorrect. But there we go, we got është, and all of these pertain to pretty much to be, to do. I mean, yeah, so, well, this one is a B, obviously. B. This is a doing, right? Uh, edge is can be very also close to ash, edge, edge, right? And then you have the ha, the eat, et, at, et. Yeah. So, right, these were the first sounds, right? You had mom, dad, eat, drink, and yeah, do. Right? These were the first, but this was not a language. These were just sounds, animal sounds, right? Keep in mind sounds all the time. And then, because it's very difficult for our mind conceptualizes sound very fast, and we have to be a bit quicker than our mind. So, um, so we have these first words, and then we realize death, right? We're like, oh my God, we're gonna die. So we create these esh, esh, essence, right? But we see that now. But in the beginning, it wasn't that, okay? Because this will become to, yeah, you will see it, okay? It will mean many things that represent different time periods for mankind, okay? So, yeah. So we got Albanian ishte, we got the German ist or ist. I don't know how. Yeah, ist, I think it is as well, or ist. And then the Latin, right? And then we got again the Latin essence, s. So all these are pertaining to now the same idea, the sound. So we're not talking about different languages now. We're just talking about the actual same word that is used differently in other languages. And then when we test them, we don't see these connections because we're looking for what it means specifically to them. And if it means the same for the others, which is not what we're finding. We're finding that these words have traveled and then they become meaning different things according to where this development has led us. Okay, very simple. Thank you. Okay. So let's go on. It then becomes ish, I, and then it becomes edge, a jaw, a jaw. So suddenly we got the development of the mind. So we're seeing that the mind is now developing because this means to listen. What do we listen? What do we hear? We hear the mind. We hear the mind speak or make simulations, right? Ideas, images. It is like this operating software inside of us. And then the consciousness that we are registers it, right? The stillness, the thing that does not make a sound, right? That hears these sounds and conceptualizes them into meaning. Okay. I'm giving a lot of ideas now because, well, I have thought a lot about this, which many people have not. And I want to share my ideas with mankind, with everyone, really, but mostly with my own family and kids in the future, so that they see this and that they know how that their dad was amazing. Okay, so and then we're gonna go forward because then this word becomes again many things. We see this becoming he, she, it, bone, remain, structure, to be, I, becomes, he, she, it, is, again, is, bones, ashes, essence, refuge, shelter, place of being. Okay, right. So this is a very old word, and it has traveled throughout very many civilizations. This is unknown to science today, but it won't be for too long. See? Huh? So I'm using even sound to make you realize what we're looking at. We're looking at the sound. And then we have conceptualized these sounds so much that we don't get them anymore. Like we don't get what they meant and how we got here, where we are. And it is really just stupid. It's just stupid because it is not rocket science, but it is for some. Okay, so this group of sounds, esh, ishte, ashtë, sits at the intersection of being, identity, structure, and sacred presence. Here's how, right? Being, existence. So we mustn't forget that our ancestors were very spiritual, not religious, not religious. They knew that they were part of God, light, power, that this power, this light, was lighting up all of existence, and that we were all part of this light. Okay. And then the further down we went, it seems as though we began developing a mind. And this mind, this intellectual mind that conceptualizes and understands the world and made math and science, um, could not sense could not sense this light. Yeah, because the mind was not of light, was not of life. Okay, so we're going from being very spiritually connected with nature, with life, to becoming less and less and less and less and less, and then becoming then psychic. We got the psyche has developed, and then we became imagining crazy things and created these crazy gods, or like that was our explanation trying to explain reality. But that it later then became further and further into conceptualization and fantasy. Okay, because the reason why I say fantasy is because even religion itself explains to us what happened, because remember that religion is really just a historical attestation of what happened during that time, but that's how they understood it, right? So it's not really a lot of look at religion, the books, as historical accounts of how they viewed it, right, from their limited knowledge, because they didn't have a lot of knowledge back then. So they're like, oh my God. They were like, they were, yeah. So, yeah. So they were, they lost sense with life and then created this psychic god, or the psyche was growing. And this growth of the psyche led to a greater distance from life where they began, right? And that this would is explained through our words, this development. Okay, right. But in essence, they didn't divide themselves from existence. Okay, our first paradise. Okay, so back to the historical account. Paradise means before knowledge. Okay, what was before knowledge? Paradise. What was paradise? A garden. Okay, a garden in heaven. What is Earth? Earth is a garden in space, floating in fucking heaven, right? So this is not really hocus pocus. This is not something myth. This is not myth. This is fact. This is fact. Earth is the garden in heaven. Like, if you haven't noticed, look at nature. Go have a look, you know? and, and we stepped away from nature life, this one life that we were part of, and this stepping away from nature led to the development of our minds. And this development of our mind led us further and further away from life, the truth. Right. Okay. And that's when we began, that fear of death comes in. Okay. Yeah. I'm talking about many things now, but I'm trying to give you a thing, what I'm trying to explain to you what happened. So, paradise, before that, there was no knowledge, and we were living in this garden, and it was beautiful. There was no need for anything. And then time went down, and then they saw that, oh my God, we are learning more and more and more and more, and this learning is leading to this other type of understanding of existence, which is leading us further away from the original light, spirit, life, right? Okay, so and then that, yeah, I'm going to explain that too, because I'm trying to explain both the psyche and the language, because these two are really one and the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Especially the mind. The psyche is like what creates the vibrations or the feel, and then but then the mind visualizes. Okay. I'm explaining many things here. I hope that I'm making sense. Okay. Identity. I'm going to go back now to the world here. Yeah, we got identity remains sacred role function. Yeah, and we see this everywhere. Um, Conclusion, a root of being, identity, and remains. But now I asked it, do we find this word and sound in Semitic languages, right? And it says, yeah, we do. Yeah, yeah, we do. Okay. And what we do is, what we find is also exists YESH, Hebrew, right? YESH, Elohim, there is God. We also find Esh for fire. Okay, so now we're going back in time. But do remember what Moses said about God, where he found the tablets, right? He found them in a burning bush, so in this fire. Okay, and we're going to look at what that fire means, because we're going to look at that one. That's just a very, fire is something we will not joke with. Okay, it is sacred, and we will find out why. Ish, man, being. See, now we got fire being divided almost. So fire, ashes, being, right? So we're getting a growth of intellect. We're seeing these, our ancestors were like, oh, we're life, this life force, this power, this light. They saw the sun, they realized, they were very intelligent. They realized very fast, okay? They were like, so they saw death, and they saw that this death was an empty body, that there was no energy in it, there was no life in it. Okay, so life didn't die, just his body died. Okay, so they realized or thought, because they saw the sun and they saw the faraway stars, and they came to the conclusion that it must have been a very, 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 very big star in the beginning, and that this light, this original light, created all the stars, right? So they were fire, they were light, they were ashes, and they were are. They are the thing that is. Okay? Now I'm really dividing things. Okay. Yes. So divine name, mystery sounds. We do find, yeah, I am, no, no, no. We do find a lot here, but there is a lot to read, and this is unknown to science and mainstream today. Semitic echoes of është, ashtë, and they still go on. We then get there is existence, fire, man being, fire glow, to be, he is becomes. Okay, so before the Abrahamic religions, we were the Egyptians, right? And the Egyptians worshipped what? The sun, the sun. But it wasn't really the sun; it was actually light, light, which explains why they were so heavily interested in the stars, right? Because they had a massive amount of information about astronomy. They knew about the stars, about the constellations. Why? And this brings us back to because they thought that they were light, right? Or this that they originated from this first big infinite star. And this infinite star, like it has never stopped. Like we think it's Big Bang, but it's not. It's actually just an endless, infinite explosion that is happening somewhere very far away. And that light, that first light from that star, is that energy driving this body, right? Oh, now you got a lot of truth here. Okay, so they were afraid that we will lose knowledge of that first star, which is why they made the pyramids to remind us. And they must have found out that space is expanding. Okay? That we're traveling very fast through space and time. And that this traveling, this fall into creation was leading to was going so far away now, and space was expanding and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So the distance, right, for for the first light from the big first star, that big explosion that happened in the beginning, and it's still happening because it's never ended, right? That one, now this light, that original light that me and you are, we have gone so far in space, and that these distances have grown now so far that we are not, that we will one day not be linked to that original light, to God. We will lose it and create these false gods. Okay, and then religion came afterwards and fixed it by saying like, oh, but there is only one God, which is true, but they made it psychic, they conceptualized it in other ways, right? Okay. So I've explained many things, but this is a diary to my sons, my family that comes as well. So it won't only be them, but also you now, who knows this, and will be sharing in this with this information. But yeah, let's go on now because I'm talking about too many things. Okay, has this spread to Austro-Asiatic languages, so Asia? Okay, now that's a deep no, but yes. Now we find this sound also in, so let's see. Yeah, we find actually quite a lot. We find us not a lot, sorry, but we find it only in, I think it is Khmer. Yes, in this one, they had it cha, um, or ashta, right? But no, no, yes, no, actually not this one. I need to look at it a bit. She, esh, or she. Okay, yes, this one can be close. Esh, she, she, right? So they just got the first syllable there and just kept the last, and that might have happened there too. Asha, 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 right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And these then would become later these other words. Okay. Ashti, Asmi, Santi, Shanti, Sat. But then this is obviously from father. At, Atman, at, ta, at. Okay. And then we have the Mundal languages of India. Achi, okay, we find other things there as well, concepts of being, knowing, but they all pertain to the same idea, which means that this sound has traveled. Okay. Direct genetic match? No. Some? Yes. Okay. Right. Yes. And then there are matches, and there are some, and there are some not. And this is where distinction occurs, right? It's not rocket science. Let's make it this simple. Okay. So then I wanted to test. Okay, I want to test more words. I want to test one last one as well, and that was essence. No. Yeah. Right. Wait, I need to look at it a bit more now, but I think that wait. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Yes, because there was another word that I also found, another sound. It's very old, and that is ra, ra, and ur. Ur and Ra. So Ur, we know, comes from Uruk, the first city we made or that we know of. And it means Uruk, so today's Iraq, right? Mesopotamia at that time. Uruk was known for this big city and this bridge, right? It was the first bridge, according to what we know. But in Albanian, this literally means bridge. So, what happened here? Right? Did this knowledge spread, or were they once one people? But this is where it gets interesting because this sound would develop and then become many other things. So city foundation, original place, right? Uruk, Ur, first city, right? And then light, flame. Wow, okay. So divine fire sparked a sacred spark. And this in Albanian, because they haven't really take that with it, they haven't included ur. Ur means uru, to ur, to ur. It's like it's that spark, the life of light, okay, that exists in all things. This is it. So primal, ancient, original, primal, proto, bridge, nakedness, exposure, root. Okay, so see, this is very, very beautiful. Rise, heat, high. So Ur is this life force, this power, this light inside of you. But then it will become later different things. It will become Ur and then word. Word is Ur. Okay, Ur is the Germanic one. Yeah, but we would not use Albanians and Italian speakings would then later use this word for just a bridge, but not for words. So they would develop other words for words, and the Germans another word for bridge. Okay, yeah. So this is how it goes, right? But okay, and then last but not least, we have then Ra. Ra is very old, super old, because it's from the Egyptians, right? Ra was the sun god, according to what we know, but it wasn't. It was light, because Ra, we get the word ray, ray, sun ray, okay, light, and yeah, So this ray becomes many things. It is traveling through space and time, becoming you and me, and and it is falling. But then we find so sun god, divine source of light, sun radiant motion, evil suddenly in Hebrew because they made, remember, the Egyptians, they made them into something they were not, right? So they imposed religion suddenly. Religion was coming in now because we had lost the knowledge of the light, of the first light. So suddenly life began meaning evil. And this is probably when uh, the idea of death, that people started using death to scare other people. Okay. Like, because fire was always pure and beautiful because it represented sunlight. But then it started, this idea of hell started, of fire, of like burning fire. You're gonna burn. You're gonna burn if you don't follow me, you know? If you don't do this and this, you will burn forever. Like, ooh, that's a very scary thought, right? And that is when this suddenly becomes evil. Yeah. But not everywhere. Not for Arabs, not for the other ones, but just for the Jews, okay? For the Hebrew ones. Apparently, this is when that which causes fear and chaos. Yeah. Because then they began creating hell. Hell did not exist, right? There was no, it doesn't exist at all. It is just exists in the psyche of mankind. But it is actually rooted in animalistic fear that we inherited from the animal kingdom, because we are naturally afraid of fire, right? It is not something we want to throw ourselves in. So this is it. But our intelligence knows that this is not fire. This is light. Okay, this is light. There's a difference between fire and light, but although they're the same thing, but you get it. Okay. But this word has also moved, and a lot. And then suddenly we get so many other different words. And then suddenly we're like, oh, we're not connected. But we are. Symbolic field of Ra. Light, movement, life force, spirit, breath, duality. Okay. Or Ra. Yeah. So there we go. There you go, my little ones. Now you are the only ones that know this. We have connected now the Indo-European with the Semitic and the Austro-Asiatic languages for the first time. Thank you. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure.